GroupMe. Check out the UC News. Melissa and her Lights for Kids was featured yesterday, I think that was, or the day before. So great article, great story. Filled in some of the, you said much of it, but, learned even more about you and the project. So, and congratulations on your 5K. Considering what you told us about what inspired you to do this in the first place, your hospital stay, that was all the more accomplishment. And I'm sorry I didn't process that fully when you came down and announced that to me last time. I was like, yeah, good. I'm proud of anybody that does that, but especially the problem that you had with your knees just a few short years ago. Well done. So you all can. This is your website, and you guys can go check that out, and you can join me in donating. All right. So I always tell you guys that when I'm talking about the heroic imagination and all of the many things that you can do to be heroic, I don't want you to forget that you can give money, that you can give time. Those are two things that you feel you don't have enough of right now. And you never will. You never will. Look at people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Do you think they feel like they have enough money? You'll never feel like you have enough money. That's the nature of money. So, somebody once said, the best way to help the poor is to not become one of them. So, I recognize that you do have limited income, but, you don't have to give a painful amount, but you can always give something. Every little bit counts. Am I right, Melissa? Every little bit counts for, a nonprofit or something like yours. Ashley.
I was just going to make a joke, but I'm not going to make it anymore.
Okay, no, you make it.
I was going to be like, oh, so I can buy my $5 coffee then. I just meant if we're never going to have enough money, I might as well get my $5 coffee.
Yeah. So within reason, and this is the do as I say, not as I do. I don't give enough of my time or enough of my money, but I'm trying to develop that heroic imagination. And when I do something, I like to let people know about it, not to brag and not to draw, not to, what do you call it? Virtue signaling. Okay, I do this not to do that, but one of my little missions about the heroic imagination is to make it mundane and not something unique and special. When somebody does, when Olivia, your reaction, if I'm gonna pick on you, your reaction is like the normal reaction when somebody applauds us for doing something. We kind of we get kind of almost embarrassed, or and then like somebody lifts a car and saves somebody, and they say, well, anybody would have done it. I did what anybody would do. People just kind of we I don't know, we don't want a virtue signal. And I want to make it normal. I want to make it normal. I want to make it like a normal thing. We don't, people will say gosh, I'm so tired. And not think, that's, and not that there is anything wrong with saying that, but I'm just kind of, I want people to hey, I donated blood this afternoon, which is what I'm going to do today after class. And I do that not to virtue signal, but just to I want to kind of make it normal. And if I can inspire somebody else to go, yeah, I can give, or I got time this afternoon, I could go donate, or I'm afraid of needles, I don't want to do that, but I'll do something else instead. That's why I do it. So not to hey, look at me, aren't I a great person? I want it to be, hey, look at me, I'm a normal person doing what normal people do. So anyway, there's a couple of ways that you can support one of your own classmates' projects, and most importantly, support those kids that you're literally bringing light to. Okay, so congratulations, Olivia. Did I call you Melissa a minute ago? Yeah, I don't know why. So, Olivia. All right. Anybody got any questions about anything at all? All right, thanks for being here. Oh, I was making a point. I forgot to close the circle about it just being like it's, just like this is, today is like sort of my cynical, like mindset of what winter in Cincinnati is like. And our first day of spring semester is going to be like today. And our last day of spring semester is going to be like today. we go from like 90 degrees in the fall, beginning of fall, to this by the end. And for some reason, spring semester is just like the same all the way through. I have noticed in the 5 springs I've been here so far, 4 out of 5 of them, we've had snow during the last week of classes in the spring semester. And 3 of them, we've had snow on my last day of class. I've gone into class and like, it's fucking snowing out. After we're done here today, we start summer vacation and it's snowing today. So that's my cynical note for the day. And I'm going to turn that around into a positive and just thank you for being here and trudging your way through this sloppy morning. So good on you to be here. All right. Last time we were talking about emotions and faces and concealing and detecting the true emotions that we're feeling or trying to hide or detect in others. And I started to talk about Paul Ekman, and I'll continue that here. So Paul Ekman is, again, the famous psychologist who first sort of was the first to sort of categorize the 6, and then he added a 7th, primary emotion that are universal expressions that people make on their faces, and the ability to correctly identify them are universals. And I got some more information about him. You'll see what else he's done. He's kind of devoted that. He's turned that into one of his major focuses has been on the detection of deception. And by using information that people reveal from their faces and gestures and intonations of voice and things like that. He doesn't just completely restrict himself to faces, but of course he's most famous for what he's done with faces. And he's revealed these things that we all do called microexpressions. These are those 7 primary emotions. We link them. We link them unconsciously on our faces in a fraction of a second, like a 25th of a second or so. And most of us don't notice them. We don't see them in other people. We're almost never aware that we're doing them. And you can both train to spot them, and it's like, he can. I've done this with him. I went to a conference and he gave this presentation. He gave some examples, and I think this was years ago, and he had some what is now crude software that he had, and I got a copy of the software, and like in an hour's time, you go from not being able to detect these things to about 80-85% accuracy in detecting them just within an hour. Now, that was just kind of fun for me, and I don't, it's not really a primary mission of mine to detect deception. And he also, Ekman talks about, the fact that, like, we think we want to know when someone's lying, but we don't. And we think that we're honest, but we're not. We all lie every day, and people lie to us every day. And sometimes those lies are benign, and sometimes they're big, and sometimes they're just tactful. Sometimes, revealing your true feelings about somebody is the tactful thing. To not reveal them is the tactful thing to do. Okay. So anyway, sometimes we don't want to know the truth. And he gives some pretty serious examples. He's like, if you think that your spouse is cheating on you, do you want to know? Part of you is like, hell yeah, I want to know, but do you want to know? If somebody is working for you and you suspect they're embezzling or stealing or doing something, against company policy, do you want to know? And maybe as the supervisor or boss or whatever, yeah, of course I want to know, but do you really want to know? Okay, so anyway, we don't always want to know. And and I think that about myself. I'm like, I deal with you guys all the time, and you guys sometimes are, you guys, I don't mean you guys are all the exceptions. None of you would do this, but students, you know, can feel compelled to be dishonest, both in their work and in telling, you know, professors about why they're not in class or something, or why they didn't get something done. And I don't want to know. And that's partly why I have the attendance policy. It's like, you don't have to tell me, because I don't want to produce like the incentive for you to be dishonest. I don't want you to make shit up. I'm like, you're an adult. Sometimes you just need a fucking day off. All right. And when you want to just let me know, you don't even have to tell me that. You can just say, I'm not going to be in class today. If you want to tell me, I welcome you telling me. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. So anyway, deception is a great big thing, a whole collection of interesting psychological phenomena. So anyway, let me share with you a little bit about these microexpressions, because I think they're kind of clever and neat. So the example that he gave was very timely, and now it's not very timely. So this person is Brian Cato Kalin, and none of you were alive, probably, not even probably, none of you were alive when O.J. Simpson, maybe some of you have never even heard of O.J. Simpson. He's a famous football player, then actor. And I am just curious, how many of you have heard of O.J. Simpson, know what naughty thing he did? Okay, all right, good, I'm glad you do. Most of you didn't know who he is, all right? So anyway, in about the, I don't know, 1993, 4 or 5, somewhere in the mid-90s, he slaughtered his ex-wife and an acquaintance of hers. Almost cut their heads off in a jealous rage. I say that because the evidence was just so clear that he did it. He was acquitted in the trial. He lost a civil case, which has a different. Anyway, he lost a civil case. But anyway, in the criminal trial, it was live on television for that, I don't know, it felt like a year or more. I don't know how long it went on. It was on forever. And a bunch of people became celebrities in addition to, OJ, who already was. And this character became, he had his 15 minutes of fame. So he was a would-be actor, friend or acquaintance or hanger-on of OJ's. And he was at the time living in a little bungalow on OJ's estate property. And so he was a key witness because he, heard stuff and saw stuff. And so he was on the stand a lot. And he was, he just kind of seemed like a himbo. All right. He was just kind of this airheaded, blonde, good looking, wannabe actor. I felt kind of sorry for him. He just got caught up in the swirl. So anyway, being the rockhead that he apparently is, he, on the sly, signed a book contract, which is just, an absolute legal no-no when you're a key witness during an ongoing trial. And he did it anyway because he's a moron. And the prosecuting team found out about it, but didn't let him know they knew about it. So he's on the stand being questioned. And the line of questioning is just kind of cat and mouse, and sort of, Marcia Clark, the key prosecutor, was, questioning him. And so Paul Ekman shows this clip. So this clip during where Brian obviously realizes that, oh shit, they know. They know what I did. They didn't come right out and say, we know what you did, but he kind of realizes it. And he does a micro-expression of rage and anger. All right. So Ekman doesn't tell us much about it, didn't tell us much about it when he played the video clip. And he just didn't watch this. And we all watched it and we saw nothing. And then he explained what I just explained to you. And then he had us watch it again. Maybe I don't remember the sequence, but maybe he showed it in super slow motion and showed the micro expression, happen for just a fleeting fraction of a second. And then we're like, oh yeah, you see it slow mo, you see it very clearly. And then then he played it back in real time again. And after to look for it, that's how quick this process can be. When you learn to spot these things, it's very quick that you know, like within an hour of training, you can get like, you know, you can go from not detecting them at all to being almost, you know, maybe almost perfect at seeing them. So yeah, let me play the little clip for you. Where is it? Is it on the next slide, or do I have to play this open? I'm gonna go to the next slide because I think it might be there. Yeah. And autoplay is kind of slow today. Our interwebs are slow today.
As you're going to see Cato Kalin, this house guest of O.J. Simpson's, who's being questioned by Margaret Clark, the district attorney, in an unfriendly fashion.
At the end of the year of 1993, he was dating Paula Barbieri, wasn't he?
And he's trying very hard to conceal how he's really feeling, which is he's very angry. And what he shows is a very fast micro-expression of disgust, anger, scorn. He does something like that, but he does it much more quickly than I'm doing it because it's a micro-expression.
Mr. Kalin, you got a lot of money for your appearance on Current Affair, didn't you?
Yes.
What you're seeing is scorn, a combination of anger and disgust, wrinkling of the nose, raising and tightening of the upper lip.
To investigate when the concealed emotion revealed by a micro-expression does expose a lie, Ekman set up an experiment. Volunteers could choose whether to remove a $50 note from an envelope in an empty room. He then interrogated them to see if he could spot the liars. This man had taken the money.
Did you take that money from your account? Are you lying to me now?
We did a really lovely micro-expression in the lips. It's an expression of disbelief that totally contradicts what he said. I'll show it to you again. Watch this area right here.
Did you take that money from your account?
There, it was just habit.
Money with you into this room? No.
Did you take that money from the envelope? No. And then he shows us a disbelief micro-expression in his lips. So it really doesn't fit at all with what he's saying.
So clever stuff. You can Google micro-expressions and or Paul Ekman and find all kinds of neat video clips about this kind of stuff. Let's see what's next because I can't even remember.
Yeah, I told you that I would know if you were telling the truth, but I also know if you're hiding something from me.
All right. So how many of you know about this TV show? Oh, you are enthusiastic about it. Okay. I hope it's still on Netflix. This was on Fox a number of years ago. Got canceled after, I don't know, 2 or 3 or less seasons. And it had a big cult. I don't want to call it a cult following. I'm going to talk to you next week about cults. I don't like that word. Anyway, it's still, how many of you seen Lie to Me? How many of you have seen just one of you? Okay. After all this, I hope you'll be inspired to go seek it out because it was a really neat show. And Paul Ekman worked with the producers of the show. And anyway, this is a little bit more about that. So it starred Tim Roth playing a Paul Ekman-like character who has like a private detective consultancy firm that helps, bigger law enforcement catch criminals and stuff. Okay, so by using these micro expressions and other things that Paul Ekman, researches. So, and it's Tim Roth, who was, famous actor, great actor. Pulp Fiction, anyone? Come on. All right. Anyway, so here's more about that.
Well, I felt so fortunate to get to work with Dr. Ekman through this project. It's been one of the best things about it. His research is very much an inspiration for a number of the scenes, a number of the techniques that Dr. Lightman uses, and I can't imagine doing the show without Dr. Ekman.
What are you doing here?
This is exciting.
As far as research goes, I just read all of Ekman's books. Well, not all of them. That was a lie.
They're really trying to hit the science and be true to Ekman's world.
Remember, Dr. Lightman, he only has 45 minutes to solve a problem. I've never solved a problem that quickly. Okay? And he's absolutely certain. I'm never absolutely certain. But this is an entertainment program based on science. And a lot of what you see is true. It's just condensed in time and with more certainty. And it is amazing to me that they are willing to try to stick close to the science rather than make it up like a lot of their competition does.
These expressions are universal. Emotion looks the same whether you're a suburban housewife or a suicide bomber. The truth is written on all our faces.
All right. So I got to keep on. I just got to talk you into watching the show. So I'm going to play like the opening. This is the opening scene. It's really speedy today.
How accurate is this using microexpressions or like body?
There's no doubt that we make them. Okay, all you need to do is just see them. Okay, you just see. You can slow down the tape. We make these things. What they reveal is not automatic. So just because somebody makes a microexpression doesn't mean that they're guilty of something. Okay, it means that they're processing that emotion. And then remember, there's a ton of reasons why you process emotions, okay? And, you know, in whatever context that you're evaluating a microexpression doesn't mean automatically that that's, aha, see, they're, you know, guilty, or they did this, they didn't do that, or they, you know, they feel, I don't know, just, it means that they're feeling something, okay? Anyway, let me play this for you, and just, and then I got a little bit more about Paul Ekman's work.
These expressions are universal. Emotion looks the same whether you're a suburban housewife or a suicide bomber. The truth is written on all our faces.
Good show, huh? It's a good show. All right, enough about the show. You can Google that kind of stuff and watch the show. So I want to talk a little bit about theories of emotion, and then talk about one of my very favorite psychology studies of all time. All right, so here's a whole bunch of theories of emotion, kind of chronologically over time. So and on the far left is not even really a theory. This is just sort of what we would call our common sense theory of emotion. All right, so our common sense tells us that we perceive something. Okay, like a lion. You know, you're in the woods of Cincinnati somewhere and you see a lion, okay? Anyway, or, you know, you're a student and you're thinking about like, oh shit, final exam coming, or presentation video due this weekend. Oh God, all right? So anyway, you have a perceived stimulus. Your common sense explanation would be that you have an emotional experience about that, and then you have a bodily reaction. So you think about it, or see it coming, or see the lion, you know, like gasp, and then you start to cry, okay, or run, or, you know, if it's a happy I didn't give any happy examples, all right. So you see your best friend, you know, you have a gasp of, you know, my best friend, and then you smile, okay. You're smiling because you're happy. You're crying because you're sad. You're running because you're scared. That's the common sense explanation of emotions. Well, William James and I don't remember Lang's first name, they didn't work as a pair, but they both kind of simultaneously came up with this alternative idea separately. And so we call it the James-Lang theory. And so this is, you know, maybe almost 200 years ago, 150, whatever, you know, late 1800s. So they flipped this around. And so, look, it's just opposite, okay? It's the stimulus. You have the bodily reaction, and then you have the emotion. So the common sense was you're smiling because you're happy. This is you're happy because you're smiling. Smiling can make you happy. Crying can make you sad. Running away from something makes you feel fear. All right? Now that's very unintuitive. Why would they have proposed this? And honestly don't know what evidence or data they were using, but there is, there is, as we're going to see, some truth to that. Okay. I've talked about the autonomic response. The other day I kind of overgeneralized and I said it's pretty identical and universal for all the emotions. There's different patterns of it. So the same responses: heart rate going up, blood pressure going up, palms getting sweaty, mouth getting dry, eyes dilating, et cetera, et cetera. The pattern, there's subtle patterns that can be associated with each emotion, but they're all of, it's generally, we still call it a generalized arousal response. All right. So anyway, your body has that. It's lickety split. And emotions are cognitive. They're, for us humans, they've become cognitive. Okay. We have this deeper limbic system that's, more basic, more, a little bit more primitive, a little bit quicker getting the information. And then it goes to the cortex. And then we do things like label emotions. Well, that's where we went next. Okay. So the Cannon-Bard theory comes along and just sort of, it's kind of a compromise between these two. And it's like, you know what? They just happen at the same time. And so that was, people held this, psychology held this idea for a while, that, okay, it's just kind of a tie. They both happen simultaneously. Well, the agreed upon variation of this now is called the Schachter theory of emotion. And it adds this cognitive label. So see, these other boxes are the same. But there's a cognitive label, like I just described. This information gets to your thinking part of your brain, the cortex, particularly the frontal area where we do our thinking, and we label it as an emotion. So yes, there's my friend. I'm happy. I'm smiling. Oh, yay! All right. But look, the other two boxes match James Lang. They're not the common sense order. All right. So it still is. And we just kind of threw this in the trash, okay? Blah blah blah. It's not a it's not a tie, okay? And what's the so anyway, you have the autonomic response. You have it sort of simultaneously with a label, probably simultaneously, because the autonomic response is stuff has to happen. Your muscles have to be engaged to smile or your feet to run. Okay, so the physiology has a delay. The cognitive part has a delay, as you know, because it's a measurable distance from the limbic system to the cortex, okay? And that processing to occur. So it's that part is kind of a tie. So that does resemble this, except that the boxes are different, all right? But the emotional experience then of the cortex, going, this is fear I'm feeling. It does happen. It does seem to happen after the body is doing its job. Okay. So again, it's not this common sense notion that you're smiling because you're happy, crying because you're sad. All right. So what evidence is behind this? There's physiological recordings that can, we can measure these things, accurately now with, into the millisecond. And so we can, we don't just, James Lang they were just going on sort of mostly a hunch, I suppose. I mean, they didn't have the technology to measure this stuff like we do today. Are there any good studies that support this Schachter theory of emotion? Yes, my very favorite psychology study, maybe of all time. Dutton and Aaron's 1974, sometimes called shaky bridge experiment. How many already know what this is? This is usually covered in intro psych often, or other classes. So, all right. God, I love this study. All right. So it took place at this national park in northwestern Canada, near Vancouver, I believe. At this park, the next slide I think has the name of the park, Capilano Park or something like that. Has this bridge, this actual bridge that you can walk across. All right, and here's another. This is a scary ass bridge to walk across. I don't know if I could do it. All right. I do have 2 former students that over the years have mailed me pictures of them on the bridge, okay? So these are 2 of my students. So this is how the study goes, all right? So I'm going to tell you half of the study. There was a, it was 2 two-part studies, all right? The paper had 2 experiments and they each had two versions, but we only always talk about one. All right, so we talk about the males' behavior on the bridge. The females were also tested on this bridge, but I'll maybe mention them next. Okay, so this is, I want you to imagine that, if you can, imagine you're a guy and you're at this part, you're walking across this bridge and you meet an attractive woman who introduces herself and says that she is a college student at whatever blah blah university in the psychology department, and they're studying. She gives a bogus cover story because that's what we do in psychology. We always give bogus cover stories. Okay, so she tells them that we're studying people's responses to national parks, or something like that. Here we are in a national park. I'm doing a national park survey or something like that. Okay, so cover story. And she asks them if they would do a little short survey and do some other little tasks. Okay, well, one of the tasks that she asks them to do is she shows them what I'm pretty sure it's this card from a famous projective test, Freudian projection test called the thematic apperception test, the TAT, thematic apperception test. And it has a bunch of ambiguous sketches or images like this. And the psychodynamic theory behind this is that you just show them to a person and then you have them like tell you the story, what's going on with these characters in this image. And the psychodynamic theory is that you will reveal your unconscious desires, particularly about, if you remember from your Freudian stuff, the 2 particular interesting things going on in your subconscious basement are having to do with sex and aggression. Okay, the id and the ego and the superego. The id and the superego particularly battling it out in the basement in the dark, over their drives, and it supposedly reveals what's going on in your unconscious. All right. This wasn't a psychodynamic study, but the team used this card, and they stopped it. So they have them like write a little paragraph saying what's going on in the story. So they get that from the guy. And there's a bunch of other questions, and then then she just, when she's done, she scribbles her name and her phone number on a little corner of a piece of paper, tears it off, and hands it to the guy and says, if you want to know more about this study, feel free to give me a call. All right. So that's the deal. You're a guy crossing the bridge, and that happens to you. And she's right in the middle of that bridge, just like these 2 women are. Okay. All right. Now there's another version that we don't talk about much because the results aren't very interesting. So females were also stopped by a guy, an attractive guy on the middle of the bridge. And they all did the exact same thing. He writes down his name and phone number and hands it to her, and same deal. Okay, so that's half the study. Let's go back to the guys. Half the guys, have this happen here. The other half of the guys randomly elsewhere in the park, not randomly elsewhere, but further, like 15 or 20 minutes. I'm sorry. Elsewhere in the park, there's another typical bridge, like a low concrete bridge for cars or trucks, just feet over the same riverbed. It's a road. It's just, with concrete walls. And it's just, it would be a totally safe, non-scary bridge to walk across. All right. So she and then for the guy study, for the women's study, the interviewer stands in the middle of that bridge and asks people to do the same tasks. Okay, so half the subjects are on the scary bridge, half of them are on the safe bridge. You got the deal now? Okay. Well, what did they find? All right, so neutral people who didn't know which condition they were in rated the stories that the guys wrote, and they did it for both males and females. All right, and they just basically counted how many things about the story were sexual in nature. Okay. Now look back at the picture. There's nothing inherently, obviously, definitely sexual about this, except maybe that she's laying there topless, but it's, anyway, there could be lots going on. This is a completely ambiguous, image, all right? So how many, so this was the average number of sexual references in the thing. So again, let's just start with the male interviewers interviewing women. Those are not significant differences, hence we don't talk about what happens with the females, okay? So nothing interesting going on there. So the guy, if it was a female interviewer, so these are the men responding. Look, they were about twice as likely if they were on the shaky bridge than on the sturdy bridge to add sexual imagery. Okay, that's interesting all by itself. Okay, the most fascinating piece of data from this study was, I don't know if it was an unintended one. If they planned this out, it was brilliant, but they wound up getting this data. A bunch of people called and asked the interviewer out for a date. She or he didn't say, hey, if you want to go out sometime, here's my phone number. Just like, if you want to know more about the study, feel free to call me. Now, how do they know which bridge they were on? They did have we'll still keep talking about the female interviewer, because look, nothing really interesting happened when it was for women with a male interviewer. She wrote a different name down, same phone number, it was the same woman, everything was the same, just different bridge. And she gave the same phone number, but a different name. So when they called and asked for, Sally versus Mary or whatever, they knew which bridge the person was on, okay? And it's just, to me, kind of as a, guy that probably almost definitely wouldn't do this. It's just amazing me that guys would call and just, cold call this woman up and ask her out on a date when she didn't. That wasn't the, purpose. All right. So look at when they were on the shaky bridge, they were like, what is that? 3-4 times more likely to, like 40, like half of them, about half of the guys called and asked her out on a date. Maybe about 15 or something percent, 10-15% asked her out, from the concrete, safe, sturdy bridge. All right. So what? What does all this have to do with that? With that theory? Let's go back to it. All right. So, guy walking across. Let's start with this scary bridge. Attendance. I'm getting my seat. Give me the signal. I'm going to start attendance. You're on a scary bridge already, and then you see this attractive person. All right, you're having an autonomic response. Like the bridge was like the first thing, you were on the bridge already. So you're in the middle of this bridge. You've already decided to walk out on it. You looked at it, your heart rate, your everything went up. If you're a normal person just looking at this scary ass bridge, just even before you set foot on it. By the time you're in the middle, you got all of that going on. You got an autonomic response just throbbing away. All right. And then you add an attractive person to this. And now you got a cognitive label that you're adding to this, attractive person, autonomic response. I must really be in love with this person. This is just, this is such a beautiful person. I must call this person up and ask them out on a date. Okay, that helps support this. So notice the name of this title, the study. Let's skip by it. Oh, the title is not in there. So some evidence for heightened sexual attraction under conditions. In the paper, they talk about about a misattribution effect. Misattributing the emotion. So they're not thinking, hey, my heart is pumping away here because of the bridge and the scary experience I'm having. All right. So again, why is this evidence for that theory? Well, if everything was exactly the same woman, same everything, but on the safe bridge, far fewer guys felt compelled to do that. So, still maybe a few, but something, that's anyway, there's the evidence that seems to suggest that this misattribution of emotion can occur. So what's sort of the more, isn't that a clever study? I mean, everything about that is just clever. Now, I got to add one more thing. So, one thing that you need to do when you do research is you need to be the first critic of your research method. You need to try to throw the darts and to pop the bubble of your hypothesis, right? So they, on their own, figured out, one possible confound of their own study design. And they recognized like, well, gee, maybe there's a self-selection thing here. Maybe only guys who are bold enough to call a woman out cold are the same kind of bold guys who would go across this bridge. Weak, wimpy guys like your professor wouldn't do this. They wouldn't go on the bridge and they wouldn't call. So they're not there. So guys that wouldn't call aren't on the bridge. Okay, you get that? So they recognize that's a possible confound. So they did another version of the study. The same, they changed it from the sturdy bridge to a path 15 minutes down that, past that bridge. A point you had to have been on that bridge to get there. So everybody was either on the bridge or 15 minutes later, presumably when their body had a time, 15 minutes to calm down and be over the, phenomenon of the bridge, and they got identical results. The patterns, in fact, I don't even know which graph I'm showing you. If it's I'm showing you the sturdy bridge. The safe path version of it is the pattern is identical, both the sexual content of the stories and the percent calling and asking out on a date. Okay. Now, why don't women do this? I don't know. Women are wired better than are. Okay, Jamie.
I was thinking about this. So when I think about
louder, please.
What?
Louder, please.
When I was thinking about this, I thought of a few things. One was probably like what specifically the theological response would be, and I was thinking about the how stress can be responsible, or love can be responsible for stress, right? Right.
Once again, you're getting ahead of me. What's next?
What is like? Another thing was, is this like why if you're like a couple, and like you are like getting close or whatever, you're gonna like watch a scary movie or whatever.
Go on a roller coaster together. Go on a scary date. Go to a haunted house. That's the moral of this. So if you, if you want to make someone attracted to you, get them to do something kind of, outside of their comfort zone, rollerblading if they've never done that, or, get your love interest, get their heart pumping, get their stress response going in a more fun, neutral kind of, setting or something. Okay. And they'll misattribute the attraction that they're, they'll think they're attracted to you when they're really just scared of what they're doing. This is the premise behind every single one of those buddy, like every kind of like rom-com movies, where the two characters start out like protagonists, they hate each other, but by the end of the movie, they love each other. Okay. Like You Got Mail. This is a really old movie. None of you have seen these kind of movies. Sleepless and I don't know. These like romantic comedies and stuff where they hate it. The woman hates the guy or vice versa at the beginning, but by the end they're in love. They go through some scary ass thing. And then by the end they're in love. Okay. It's also, the cop, buddy cop movie kind of things, the two partners are at odds at the beginning of the movie. And then by the end, after they go through all the harrowing stuff, they're like best buds. Okay. This Schachter dual theory of emotion perfectly explains that phenomenon. Okay. So yeah. More pictures of that bridge. That's a scary fucking bridge, man. Have any of you been there? If you go there, send me a picture. I'll add you to the PowerPoint. Okay. All right, I got just enough time to tell you about this other study that sadly kind of has been debunked lately, but I still love it, so I still talk about it. All right, and partly because one of my graduate school professors is one of the 3 co-authors of this study that made it into all the intro and social psych textbooks. So again, it had a bogus cover story, and it went like this. So people came in and they told them like, "Hey, we're studying the stress of being differently able. What if you lost the use of one or both of your hands?" All right. So they split the participants into one of 3 categories, one of 3 groups, unbeknownst to them, and they had them. They said, we're going to do a bunch of tasks, a bunch of written tasks. So one group of subjects they told, just imagine that you lost use of your dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, please use your left hand. So put your pen in your left hand or vice versa if you're left-handed. Okay, so just imagine, one group is just you lost use of your dominant hand. Another group was told you lost use of both of your hands and you have to use your mouth. And so they instructed them how to hold the pen in their mouth to do the written tasks. And so I don't have a pen, but so they told them like hold the pen with your teeth, keep your lips off the pen and hold it just with your teeth. Okay, so you clamp down just firm enough to hold the pen steady with your teeth, and then they had them draw stuff and write their name and then do a bunch of tasks while they're doing this. All right, and then the third group, same deal. You lost both hands. You've got to use your mouth. They instructed them how to hold the pen like we don't want. Hold the pen with your lips, like kind of firmly around the pen, but don't use your teeth. We don't want to damage your teeth. So hold the pen with your lips firm enough to do all these tasks. So they got 3 sets of people doing, writing down stuff, drawing pictures and whatnot. And one of the primary tasks that they had them do was to rate moderately funny cartoons. I believe they were Far Side cartoons. I don't know if this was one of them, but they had people, first of all, if you're familiar, anyway, cartoons might be, Far Side cartoons are either just, everybody thinks they're funny or nobody thinks they're funny. So they found like some middle range so that they wouldn't, they didn't want everybody to say that they're funny. So they found some like moderately funny ones. And they had them just, one of the tasks they had them do was rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, how funny they found them. All right. So here's what they found. All right. So, if you're holding it in your hand, wrong hand, okay, you found them, this middle level funny. Bad graph, I don't have error bars, so I can't tell. These are all significant differences, by the way, all right? So people with the wrong hand found them like moderately funny. If you were holding the pen with your lips, you found them less funny. And if you were holding the pen in your teeth, you found it funniest of all, okay? So again, all 3 of these were significantly different, and especially between lips and teeth. So what did this reveal? Does anybody know, or does anybody know what holding the pen why would holding the pen in your teeth make it seem funnier than holding it with your lips? Yeah. Yeah. Without them knowing it, they're unconsciously making them smile. When you hold a pen with your teeth, you can kind of put try it out again. It kind of makes your mouth go into, when you do it with your lips, it kind of makes you frown without knowing you're making a frowny face. Okay, so it also gives this, this feedback loop, throws the common sense thing on its head. So again, you're sad. You're not finding things funny because you're frowning. You're finding things funny, and you're happier because you're smiling, even though you don't realize you're smiling. Okay, so it was support for this, again, the Schachter theory, and then you're misattributing the humor. Okay, you're thinking, oh, that's a funny cartoon. Well, you're finding it funnier because you're smiling already. All right. So anyway, this study it's had difficulty being replicated. So it's like kind of like one of these poster experiments. During this a few years ago, psychology had endured this sort of replication crisis where lots of these classic studies have been redone and people are like, wait a minute, we don't get this result all the time. So I still don't know what the final synopsis is of this. I still like it. It still supports my theory, so I'm biased. I keep using it. I'm way out of time. Thank you for being here. Keep smiling. Walk around with your pen in your mouth and your teeth. And next time we'll talk about the biological correlates, Jamie. Thank you for being here. Stay warm out there, and I'll see you on Friday.